I'd like to welcome to our stage our GM of Public Sector, Mike Contreras. Hey, Mike.
Hello.
How are you?
Doing well.
Good,
Doing
awesome.
really well.
So, quick question. We're in Houston.
Yes.
Why are we talking about public sector?
Ooh, put me on the spot right there.
I am.
Okay, well, I think if one observation I've had about major transformational innovations within the last half century or so have involved government in some capacity. If you look at modern rocketry, that was an investment from the Army after the German V-2 bomb. If you look at DoD funding ARPANET, which was a predecessor to the internet, everybody's heard of that. Okay, but one right here close to home that happened right across the street that kicked off the space race, there was a key initiative started by JFK. On September 12th, 1962, he gave his "We Choose to Go to the Moon" speech. Rice University, right across the street, my alma mater. So if you look at it from an innovation and bold innovation, transformational innovation perspective, Houston has roots in doing big things. Similar, government, through NASA, has made investments in crowdsourcing. As early as 2010, NASA started the NASA Tournament Lab. And to date, that work has grown. It has spread across other agencies and now poses over $100 million of opportunity. So crowdsourcing is here and growing.
It's big.
And started in Houston.
It's big. Good. Well, to continue this conversation, please welcome our 4 panelists who are behind me here, all leading innovation through open talent at their respective government agencies.
Okay, so we're really happy to have Lynn Buquo. She's the manager of the Center of Excellence for Collaborative Innovation at NASA. Mark Apgar from SOCOM. He's the Joint Threat Warning Systems Engineering Lead. We have Jen Beardsley, who's the Prize Administrator at U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. And we have Terese Manley from the National Institute of Standards and Technology, also a Prize Administrator. So we're gonna go ahead and go down the line and just let each one of you kind of introduce yourselves more fully, your role and your experience with Topcoder, and then we'll get into some questions.
Okay. Trying to distill 10 years of experience into 2 minutes was a little hard, so I had to use notes. Keep me focused here. So, NASA Center of Excellence for Collaborative Innovation. We call it COSI, get cozy with COSI. We were officially established in November of 2011. We had been experimenting with crowdsourcing as a creative government acquisition model. We were noticed by the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy for the successes we were having with those experiments. So they asked us if we would be willing to help other federal agencies with our expertise, growing expertise, and capabilities we had already established. We of course said yes, because it provided an awesome opportunity for us to continue to learn and mature our operational practices, as well as spreading the wealth across the federal government. At that time, we were working with just 3 companies, one of whom was Topcoder, through our contract with Harvard University. That was the origin of the NASA Tournament Lab and the NTL logo you see almost everywhere here. Thank you very much. In 2015, because we were being quite successful, we expanded to actually working with 10 companies through our NASA Open Innovation Services contracts. At that time, we also began using the government credit card to do micro-tasking and acquiring freelance talent. So totally, right now, we probably work with over 15 companies, have experience working with over 15 companies in various capacities. We've had 350 challenges. I know John showed some of our data this morning, but we're up to over 350 challenges. We have a 90% success rate, and we've demonstrated a 40% cost savings over traditional acquisition methods within the government. We continue to support other agencies. It makes me really happy to be sitting up here with these folks that we're supporting right now. We've also done some work with NGA, DHS, most recently CDC, as well as a few others. We're now in the government circle of hell, working on our NASA Open Innovation Services 2. We are working to continue to scale expand our capabilities and look to be working with even more companies, but also expanding the kinds of crowdsourcing we have available to use, not just public competitions, all the forms of crowdsourcing that continue to mature right now. It's great to have the TCO in Houston. It's great to be able to have my small but high-functioning team attend this event because it is in Houston. And I'm really excited to say it's great to be using the development track competition this Friday to improve NASA's search engine for our fabulous NASA imagery system. It's one of NASA's greatest assets. We're using this opportunity to improve how you all get access to that imagery.
That's great, Lynn. So real work being done right here at Topcoder TCO. Awesome.
Hello, this is Mark Apgar. I'm an engineer that works at Special Operations Command in Tampa, Florida, MacDill Air Force Base. And a little bit about that command. I've mentioned this to several people and they don't know what SOCOM is. So basic idea is it's all special operations for all branches of military are headquartered at the Special Operations Command. And it's a command with a unique ability to do acquisition. So Army does acquisition, Air Force does their acquisition, and the so-called big service acquisition that has its normal processes. SOCOM also has its acquisition element where I work. It's just a single building. We're a lot smaller, faster moving, and have an ability to innovate. Our command authorized hackathons through policy. This is what we call this sort of thing as a hackathon. And I am the second project, as far as I know, within our command to do a challenge. The first one, a coworker that doesn't work far from me, was the first one, Trailblazer, and she was recognized by OSD for Top Innovator of the Year. Not SOCOM Top Innovator, all OSD, so that's a big deal. A lot of attention on this. It has the attention of our acquisition executive. I think there's more room to grow. We are in very early stages of hackathons, Topcoder challenges. And I work within the command in the acquisition element, and inside the acquisition element, there's special reconnaissance and surveillance, everything from night vision to tags to signals intelligence and geospatial intelligence. And I'm the lead engineer for Joint Threat Warning System, which is the signals intelligence program of record for all SOF. So what we do is train and equip special forces with SOF procure your SIGINT equipment that wouldn't be normally offered to by the big services to them. Basically I have a team of engineers that work for me. We're a pretty small program. And we've done some things we've called QRC in the past for maybe 10 years. It's a lot different than this. We'll talk about it a little bit more later. We've had pretty good success with our hackathon event and hope to grow it more. So thanks for having me.
Good morning. I am Jen Beardsley. I work with the Bureau of Reclamation. To give a little bit of background, the Bureau of Reclamation is a government agency housed within the Department of the Interior. The Bureau of Reclamation was formed to bring water to the West. So I guess in a sense you could say we were innovative. We brought these water projects out so we could reclaim the West, so we could have agriculture and have food sources, right, and bring power. We operate in the 17 western states, and at the basic core of our mission is to generate power, deliver water. We're a water management agency. Bureau of Reclamation entered into the prize competition or embrace prize competitions beginning in 2014. We received our first money from Congress, and in 2015 launched our first competition. Since that time, we have launched 20 competitions. We have 2 currently running now, and our competitions range from data visualization to improving forecasting, subseasonal forecasting, to many structural things to address either a need for maintaining or better operating our facilities, dams or canals, detecting leaks in our canals, or addressing maybe an environmental issue such as invasive mussels, or how to keep fish where they need to be and out of our canals. We organized, I had a predecessor that had a great vision, organized our team. So I have this fantastic, phenomenal team that serves to help bring scope to our competitions. What does Reclamation need? What do we need to think about? Where do we need to find new ways to do things bigger, better, faster? We focus on infrastructure, we focus on water availability or forecasting or modeling data aspects, and then we also focus on the environmental aspects of reclamation operating in the environment. So 20 competitions. Currently we have 2 running. One of them, since we formed our relationship with NASA, we've launched 2 competitions. One of them is currently running with Topcoder now. We undertook an effort to build upon a past competition to advance even further, hopefully advance even further on subseasonal forecasting. So looking beyond what you see on your phone for the forecast of the 10 days, we're looking out 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. That's something where Reclamation may not be the forecaster. We're partnered with NOAA, but Reclamation is a beneficiary of the forecast. If we get good forecasts, we can plan better in how to operate our facilities, or we can help inform our stakeholders who rely upon the water that we manage. We also have a second competition running, Rust Busters. This is another one where we had a multi-stage competition. We're taking it to the next level, seeking new innovative ideas for how to protect steel that's exposed to water constantly, or it's in a situation where it's being exposed to water or to the harsh elements of the sun or the freeze. So we're in a new situation where we're able to conduct our competitions through procurement with NASA and engage the world to bring those solutions to us. So I appreciate being here. Thank you.
Great. Hi. I'm Terese Manley, and since we work with the federal government, we all are not short on words. But I will try and condense. I work for NIST, which is the National Institute for Standards and Technologies, specifically in the area of public safety communications research. So we are looking at ways to help first responders with their wireless communications in the 5 to 15-year research area. So we're looking in various research areas. Some of the more interesting ones might have to do with drones, being able to fly a network communications device around in an area where there's no infrastructure. We also look at virtual reality and the gaming community and augmented reality in ways that might help a first responder with their visual masks, being able to provide them sensor data or even GPS location. There's all sorts of things we're doing in voice communications, but one of the areas is data analytics, and that's where we were introduced to Topcoder and working with NASA COSI. And in the data analytics area, we were able to pare down our very large problem statement into a very simple scoring mechanism for differential privacy, which really the main goal for us was to be able to remove the personally identifiable information or personal information out of a data set. We would like to be able to share data sets amongst our agencies, and it's not specific to public safety. It's really, healthcare, financial, all the industries really could benefit from it. And differential privacy is a method by which they might be able to improve their data privacy and be able to still use the data set for usable research purposes or just to share that information. So that's that was the actual challenge or competition that we did with Topcoder. We had an amazing co-pilot with Topcoder. I see him in the audience, and you heard from him earlier. But it was a real interesting process going through with Topcoder and working on the differential privacy data project. We will are potentially planning future data analytics projects, but I will tell, so for all of the coders or developers out in the audience, you have less than 48 hours to submit on a online contest for a codeathon, not being run by Topcoder, but it is supporting, there are 10 different contests. I would encourage you to look it up. They're all to help public safety. It's our mission. It's tech2protect.org is where you will find that information, or you can find me later on in the conference. Again, that is tech2protect.org. But thank you for the invitation.
Yes, and Topcoder is a regional or a national co-sponsor of
Yes.
the Tech2Protect series of software development hackathons. So.
Yes.
So we're super excited about that. We're excited about everybody's projects. There's such a diversity amongst the types of work that you all are doing. So I'm going to go into this panel is titled The Big and the Bold. I think most everybody thinks of government big, yes. Bold, you know, maybe that's not the first word that comes up. So how do you convince either your leadership or maybe the frozen middle management to do things which are unconventional and bold?
Sorry, is that me?
Sure.
So why don't I jump in?
Start it.
How about that? So in the Bureau of Reclamation, very traditional engineering firm. We start with the dam building. We were construction oriented. And I think one of the things that we've had the luxury of is to watch us transform. We got things built. Now what? We needed to be resilient. We needed to change how we do our business. We needed to make sure that we were focused and able to do the maintenance. So we're very structural oriented, but we know the importance of integrating across our structures and across with our customers and with the other agencies. And one of the things that we could do to get our middle management, to get our leaders engaged, is to find the piece of some of the things that we may struggle with, where we've either done research and we stalled out, or we continue to face the same problem over and over. We needed to talk about that. We're open to finding solutions, and we needed to do the research. But once you hit that stall, it's having that easy conversation to say, you know what, we might have another idea. What if? And always asking that what if question with our managers, or figuring out where there's that minor risk. It's a low risk, it's a low investment, let's see what we get out of it. We still do it, we're still building our program. But I think we're finding that our efforts are being embraced. We're getting good solutions in, and our people are getting excited. It's fun to step out of the norm and do something creative, which is a little bit unusual for our agency and our culture.
And I'll just add something from a crowdsourcing perspective. I think one of the pitches that I also use is, you know, we have this very small team of 50 researchers. We could crowdsource and find anywhere in the world of people who are doing this, something that could help us. So really reaching out from a crowdsourcing perspective is something that they don't think about every day.
Well, then, Terese, too, you have multiple tools available to you through your contracting structure. You know, you could use a grant, crowdsourcing. You know, how do you decide, you know, when to use one or the other, or just a direct contract?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. We have a variety of funding vehicles and external resources that we can use. My group specifically works with open innovation and crowdsourcing and working externally. And so really we are trying to find we try and work with the researchers on if it's just to build a prototype or to use something today, then go the CRADA route or go, you know, do a procurement package. But if you are trying to solve a problem that might be more beneficial to reach out to what we call external researchers, because we have plenty of internal researchers, grants and external research might be a way for us to be able to control, but also it's the speed of receiving that solution much more quickly in a crowdsourcing methodology. And so once you do one of these and show the beauty of that to the research teams or the engineers, then they catch on and they understand how to continue that.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of pitch it over to Mark because, you know, that rapid prototyping, that testing of an idea was really crucial in the project that we did. You know, can you talk about the speed at which we were able to do that and what we were able to do?
Well, the first obstacle we had is defining the scope of the project, and that was maybe half of the project before we even engaged with Topcoder. A lot of what we do is sensitive, so there was a bunch of suggested ideas that ultimately were deemed revealing of how our soft troops operate and their tactics, so we couldn't do those. There's numerous signals intelligence problems that I believe there's skill sets within Topcoder community, crowdsourced community can do. There's all kinds of neat problems, signals analysis kind of problems. So half of the effort was just defining the scope and parameters of a problem. And then the next step was competition. We had some help with NASA to make sure we got that done. That turned out to be easier than I expected. We always have to do things competition. So thank you, NASA. And the previous effort, the first one was at SOCOM, was also through NASA. So we achieved our requirement for competition there. And then after that, it moved pretty quickly. We defined the scoring criteria. We went fully objective. I've learned this week that some challenges are subjective. We have not done that, so that's interesting. But we spent some time defining the scoring criteria, and it was a fully objective thing, so as the crowd submitted their algorithms, they got immediate feedback. They know how they were placing in there. This is all new to me. And the actual finding the best algorithm out of the crowd was a relatively short process. I want to say maybe a month or 6 weeks, something along those lines. And then we go back behind the wall where I work, and it has to get integrated into the platforms where the software is needed. And then we're back into slow mode again. So we're seeing, long traditional contracting process, very slow to make it happen. Once it finally happens, we get it done in 6 weeks, and then we'll get the output from the challenge, and we're back into several months to actually get it fielded and in the hands of a soft user. And we're still in that process now. It's not actually deployed yet.
Yeah, so we were able to really condense that time to rapid prototype and test out ideas, and now I guess the goal though is eventually to deploy it and it'll fly on missions. So the algorithm that was developed. Is that?
That's right. Yeah, we have.
Can you say that?
So just a little background of the signals intelligence systems that we field go on air, land, and sea platforms, mobile vehicles, worn on the body. And there's GUIs and software associated with all of those platforms. In this case, the challenge was for our aircraft platform. Can't say specific aircraft, but in general, it's a moving map display, and we want to locate a radio on the earth below the airplane somewhere. That was the challenge. And the algorithm just gives us a latitude, longitude, and our integrator that actually writes the software that goes on the aircraft needs to take that position and display it on the GUI that's existing now, because the planes are flying now. It's a deployed system, so I need to be careful, do my cyber security checks, secure the network and the enterprise. That's part of why it takes a while, because all these other checks and balances that I have to do in order to deploy things to the field. But eventually, after all that's done, that'll be flying an aircraft, and it's a better capability than we've had before. And on some of our aircraft, it's a capability they've not had at all. They could hear a radio, but they couldn't locate it. So big improvement for the users.
Yeah, so it's an amazing step change, and we've heard a little bit about the hurdles, right? The security issues. We've also heard a little bit about procurement. But Lynn, I want to pass it over to you, since you've been in the game since 2010. you've seen it all. What makes innovating in government just different?
So first of all, you get to be friends with your attorneys. Although that's true in private sector too, right? I mean, that's not unique to the government in any way, shape, or form. But for us, one of the things that we discovered early on, because we had some innovative attorneys, and I will share with you that is not oxymoronic. There are highly innovative attorneys, as well as our procurement organization. We've had some real good support from it as well. But what I learned from one of our attorneys was that the best way to kind of summarize the difference between working in the private sector and working in the public sector. For those of you in the private sector, when you want to go do a thing, you should probably be asking the question, is the thing I want to do illegal? For those of us in the public sector, when we want to go do a thing, we really have to ask the question, is there a law that allows us to do it? For us to do something in the public sector, we have to have been given the authority by Congress to go do that. And I'm very proud to say that within NASA, we have figured out how to take the laws that are available to us and use them to do all kinds of crowdsourcing. The NTL is not NASA's only use of crowdsourcing. We have a whole program called NASA Solve that uses all of the authorities available to us. It just structures how we do that crowdsourcing based on the law that's being used to go do that. So that's it in a nutshell.
Awesome. Yeah, innovating within constraints. So we got a few seconds left, and I want to give you all a chance to prognosticate, speculate a little bit. There's a lot of talk about the 20-year mark, and that being we've Topcoder's been around since 2001. Is this the year for crowdsourcing where we go, mainstream? So given your vantage point, are we at the tipping point for crowdsourcing?
Gosh, I hope so. I still have hope. The hope has not been knocked out of me yet. We're scaling, so I think the fact that we're scaling says something in and of itself. John pointed out this morning, adoption is still the bugaboo. It is still the biggest bugaboo, and it's still the biggest hurdle we're facing, but we're not stopping. We haven't been shut down, and we're scaling. I'm hopeful.
And I would say, from my vantage point, we're not at the tipping point, but I have a lot of faith that we're getting there, and there's this large funnel that we're going toward that will just open up all the things that we do within federal government. I think it's just a matter of evangelizing it and getting that word out and showing how easy it is once we get through those laws and those procurement vehicles, which we've had some success doing at PSCR.
And on the law part, and as far as tipping point, we did have this memo signed by our command and leadership, which it's just a couple pages long, no big deal, but for us it is a big deal. Because we go to our legal shop, we can wave the memo around and say, hey, we're allowed to do this thing called hackathons. It's within policy, and then the legal guys have to try to make it work. So you're right about the legal, and having memos and things like that does put us closer to the tipping point.
Last thought, I think we're getting closer. We're showing some good successes. We're trying to take these ideas that we get and implement them, which is, it's hard to go from that fast to the slow. But I think as we keep showing these successes, we can build the synergy and keep moving forward in my thoughts. It's exciting.
Awesome. So Lynn, Mark, Jen, Terese, please join me in thanking the panel.